In the quiet suburbs of Willow Creek, where manicured lawns whispered of unspoken rules, John Mitchell woke to a nightmare. His beloved hedges, meticulously grown over years to shield his family from prying eyes, lay in ruins, hacked down to jagged stumps under the cover of dawn. The culprit? His neighbor, Karen, the self-appointed guardian of the Homeowners Association, whose smile hid a venom rooted in deeper prejudices. As John stared at the devastation, a fire ignited within him. He wouldn't just rebuild. He'd erect something unbreakable, a cinder block wall that would stand as a defiant monument. But this wasn't merely about property. It unearthed the ugly undercurrents of racial bias simmering in their seemingly perfect community, forcing John to confront how far one woman's entitlement could go to preserve her version of normal. John Mitchell had always dreamed of a peaceful life for his family in Willow Creek Estates, a gated community in the heart of suburban America. He and his wife, a dedicated teacher, had adopted 2 children from foster care years ago, one of whom was Black, bringing a beautiful diversity to their household that John cherished deeply. The move to Willow Creek in 2015 felt like a fresh start after years in the bustling city. The neighborhood boasted wide streets, uniform houses painted in soft pastels, and an active homeowners association that promised harmony and high property values. From the beginning, John invested in making their home a sanctuary. He planted a row of hedges along the property line, sturdy evergreens that grew tall and thick, providing privacy for backyard barbecues where laughter echoed and the kids played freely. These hedges weren't just greenery. They symbolized security, a buffer against the world. John tended them with care, trimming them neatly, ensuring they complied with the HOA's vague guidelines on landscaping. Neighbors nodded approvingly at first, but subtle shifts began to emerge. Karen, the HOA president living 2 doors down, embodied the community's watchful eye. Known for her clipped emails about minor infractions like overgrown grass or holiday decorations left up too long, she patrolled the streets with a notebook in hand. John noticed her lingering stares during family gatherings, her eyes narrowing when his adopted son dashed across the yard. Whispers circulated at block parties about fitting in, code words that John recognized from his advocacy work in racial justice circles. He brushed it off initially, focusing on his job as a community organizer, where he often spoke about equality and inclusion. As months turned to years, the hedges flourished, reaching shoulder height and creating a natural barrier that allowed John's family to thrive without constant scrutiny. But curiosity built among the residents. Why did John need such privacy? Rumors swirled that his home hosted those kinds of people, alluding to the diverse friends who visited. Karen's presence grew more intrusive, her casual comments at meetings hinting at concerns over neighborhood aesthetics that seemed pointed at John's property. Little did he know, these were the early seeds of a conflict that would expose the racial underbelly of their idyllic enclave, forcing John to confront how far one woman's entitlement could go to preserve her version of normal. Tension simmered beneath the surface as Karen's oversight evolved into targeted harassment. It started subtly, anonymous notes left in John's mailbox complaining about the hedges blocking views and lowering curb appeal. He ignored them at first, attributing it to typical HOA pettiness. But then came the official warnings, letters on crisp HOA letterhead demanding the hedges be trimmed below 4 feet, citing obscure bylaws that John scoured the documents to verify. He complied partially, lowering them slightly, but refused to decimate what protected his family's sense of safety. Karen's influence extended beyond paperwork. At HOA meetings, she rallied allies, painting John's home as an outlier that disrupted the community's uniformity. Whispers of racial bias crept in. One board member confided to John that Karen had grumbled about certain elements not belonging in Willow Creek, referencing historical covenants that once barred non-white residents. Relics now illegal, but lingering in mindset. John's adopted son began noticing the stares, asking, "Why does the neighbor lady always watch them play?" The emotional stakes heightened as John's wife grew anxious, fearing escalation could affect their children's well-being. Undeterred, John documented everything, photographing the Hedges and noting each interaction. But Karen pressed on, enlisting landscapers for routine maintenance that suspiciously targeted properties like his. One evening, as the sun dipped low, John spotted her measuring his hedges with a tape measure, her face twisted in disapproval. The injustice deepened when he learned from a sympathetic neighbor that Karen had vetoed similar landscaping for other families, but enforced rules selectively, sparing those who mirrored her own background. The breaking point loomed as racial undertones became overt. During a neighborhood event, Karen cornered John, her voice low but laced with implication, questioning why his family needed extra barriers when others managed fine. It stung, revealing her discomfort with diversity in a space she deemed exclusive. John's anger built, not just for his property, but for the systemic echoes of exclusion that mirrored broader societal ills. He researched local laws, consulting attorneys familiar with Fair Housing Acts, uncovering patterns of HOA discrimination in similar communities. The Hedges, once a simple garden feature, now represented resilience against prejudice. As weeks blurred into months, the pressure mounted. John's sleep grew restless, haunted by visions of further intrusion. His family rallied around him, their bond strengthening amid adversity. Yet the injustice gnawed. How could one person's bias wield such power? The stage was set for confrontation, with Karen's entitlement clashing against John's quiet determination, building toward an inevitable eruption that would force the community to reckon with its hidden fractures. The morning of the destruction dawned crisp and unassuming, but chaos shattered the calm. John stepped outside to the acrid scent of fresh-cut greenery, his heart plummeting at the sight. His hedges reduced to mangled remnants, chainsaw marks scarring the earth where roots had been yanked free. Shock rooted him in place, the violation raw and personal, stripping away the shield that had guarded his family's privacy. He knew instantly who was responsible. Karen's van idled nearby, landscapers packing tools under her watchful gaze. Rage surged through John as he confronted the scene, his mind racing through years of built-up grievances. This wasn't mere overreach. It was a deliberate erasure, fueled by her unease with his family's presence in her curated world. He called the police, but the responding officer dismissed it as a civil dispute, advising him to take it up with the HOA, a system stacked in Karen's favor. Undaunted, John gathered evidence, photos of the stumps, copies of past warnings, and witness statements from neighbors who had seen her orchestrate similar acts against those who didn't conform. The HOA emergency meeting became the battleground. Karen presided with feigned authority, presenting slides of before images, claiming the Hedges violated aesthetics and posed safety risks. Her allies nodded in agreement, but John stood tall, his voice steady as he laid out his case. He revealed research on the neighborhood's history of racial covenants, linking Karen's actions to outdated prejudices that still influence decisions. The room tensed, murmurs rippling as board members shifted uncomfortably. In a pivotal moment, John unveiled plans for his response, a cinder block wall fully permitted by city ordinances, towering higher than the Hedges ever had. Karen's face paled, her objections frantic, calling it an eyesore, a provocation, but John countered with legal documents proving every step compliant, turning her weapon of rules against her. The climax peaked as an impartial board member, swayed by the evidence, voted to halt any interference, exposing Karen's bias for what it was. The meeting dissolved in hushed arguments, John emerging with a hard-won validation, the path clear to build his unyielding barrier. With the meeting's dust settling, John wasted no time. Trucks delivered stacks of cinder blocks, their gray solidity a stark contrast to the organic hedges that once stood. Day by day he labored, mixing mortar and stacking rows, each block a testament to his resolve. Neighbors watched from afar, some in quiet support, others in reluctant admiration. The wall rose methodically, 6 feet high, unadorned but impenetrable, transforming the property line into a permanent divide. Karen's attempts to sabotage faltered. City inspectors confirmed compliance, leaving her powerless and isolated. As the wall completed, peace returned to John's home. His family gathered behind it, the children playing without fear of judgmental eyes, the space reclaimed as their own. The community shifted subtly. Whispers turned to discussions about inclusivity, with a few residents challenging Karen's leadership at subsequent meetings. Her influence waned, her once dominant role reduced to murmurs of discontent. John reflected on the ordeal, recognizing it as a microcosm of larger struggles against embedded bias in everyday spaces. This story, inspired by true accounts of HOA injustices, underscores how personal acts of defiance can challenge systemic prejudice. In a world where barriers, both literal and figurative, persist, John's Wall stands as a reminder that resilience can reshape landscapes. What if more of us built our own walls against intolerance, fostering communities where diversity isn't just tolerated, but celebrated?